Welcome to From Caving In to Crushing It, the podcast for those who find themselves immersed in adversity and choose to write their story instead of having others write it for them. I'm Drew Durrani, and I'm your host. Hey, Joey, it's good to see you.
Hey man, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I always love when we start talking before we hit record. We get to catch up and learn some things. So, at some point during this, I'll probably I may ask you about, the your roommates or how you rent out the house because I love those
Yes.
stories.
Yeah,
But
that's I
anyway,
mean,
I always begin these podcasts by thanking the individual who introduced me to my guest. And for this one, big shout out to Ryan Hall. Thanks for introducing me to Joey. It's been a pleasure so far, and I know why you introduced us because we've had some great conversations. With that said, why is Joey here? Well, as you guys, my audience knows, I really believe that we're young and it's not malicious teaching. We're taught that life is linear. Our family, our friends, they tell us, hey, if you do the right thing in this order, A plus B plus C, D is going to happen, right? And for the most part, life is linear until it's not. At some point, an external circumstance or multiple will come right in front of us. Either we see them or we don't. And if we do see it, we either change or we don't. And I firmly believe there's three different types of men out there. You have man number one, that when the adversity presents himself, he's got so many blind spots. He doesn't even see it. And if he does, he just thinks that's the way life is supposed to be. He's following the path he was told to follow, makes no changes, and in the end, that's it. He's on autopilot. Man number two. Man number two's got a heightened self awareness. He sees the adversity in front of him, yet he says he's the victim. That's life doing it to him. Everybody else is to blame, not him. And this is the way life is, and I can't change anything. And he goes on his way on autopilot. And at the end, on his deathbed, he's got a ton of regrets. All right. Then there's man number three, the men I have in this show. Joey's man number three. Man number three is the man who's got a more heightened self awareness. He sees that adversity and he looks at it. He goes, man, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. He goes, this is not a barrier. This is an opportunity. This is life doing something for me so I can take massive action, do something differently, and become a stronger man on the other side. So, Joey, I'd love you to reach back as far as you need to for that
mhm.
defining moment in life, whether it was the tap on the shoulder, the whisper in the ear, or like I needed 5 or 6 years ago, 2x4 upside my head, that has transformed you from whatever
Yes,
man you were to man number three, the Joey Natale we see right now, and how that
yeah,
affected your behavior, what you did differently, and that really changed you personally and professionally. You want to share that with us?
absolutely. The moment that really comes to mind that got me to where I am today, a little bit of context. I graduated college in 2018, took some time off, came back, finished strong, and then moved back in with my mom. It was super great for my dating life. Not even a little bit. Yeah. Not even a little bit. And then I studied psychology and health and wellness, and I couldn't get a job that was worth paying unless I went to graduate school, and I didn't want to do that right out of college. So I was just like, well, I got more experience in IT. So I worked on an IT certification and landed a really good tech job, and I was happy with it at the time. It wasn't very long until I realized like I don't really like this place. I didn't know what was going on. What I know now that I
Right.
didn't know then was that
Got
my
it.
values weren't aligned like
Got
at
it.
all.
Got it. Yep.
And just, you know how corporate is, double talk, things like that, all the things. And the apocalypse happened in 2020, and I saw this guy named Tony Robbins. He was doing like a free challenge.
Hmm.
I went to that free challenge. He does it once a year at this point, and he did his first virtual event, usually his big one that he does in person.
Right.
And I attended it, and it was great. And there was a moment during that event where this is my first self-development conference I ever been to. There was a moment when he said, do you ever have that feeling when there's something more in your life? You want more. And I was like, yes. Having had those thoughts, even I remember going on a walk with somebody being like, when am I going to get on my path? And I would just kind of shove it down because I didn't know what to do with that
Yeah.
information. I didn't know when the right time was. And when I heard Tony say that, I was like, oh, yeah, that's familiar. Tony continued saying, if you ignore those feelings, those thoughts, emotions, eventually you'll wake up in 20, 30 years and think to yourself, what the hell have I done with my life? And I was like, oh shit. That was one of my greatest fears because I remember when I was a boy
Yeah.
and I would talk to my parents, being like, so what happens after school? And like, well, you might go to college and then you work for 30, 40 years. I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't sound
I
fun.
was like, I don't want to do
Uh,
that. And Tony continued to say that when you choose to shove those feelings down, you're committing spiritual suicide,
mm,
and it's death by a thousand cuts. And I just that hit me
mm,
like a ton of bricks. And I knew in that moment, I was just like, I'm gonna make a change. I before getting into tech was interested in being a therapist.
mm. Okay.
I actually had got accepted into graduate school and turned it down because
Okay.
I got cold feet.
Yep. Yep.
But I discovered coaching was more of my speed. I was like, what is this? I didn't know what coaching was.
Right.
It's like, oh, what does Tony do? Coaching, what's that?
Mm,
And I realized it's more my speed and flavor. And so I then pursued it. And that's a whole other story entirely, but it was that moment. That
mm.
was the big one for me. That,
He is impactful, and I actually attended the his free virtual one probably in 2021.
mm,
And it is impactful, and it's even more impactful when you start to apply the stuff he teaches you after the fact. You get that
yes.
rush of adrenaline during. So
Hmm.
you actually applied what you heard. So getting into that another story, the coaching piece,
Yeah.
what did you do next to become a coach since you initially were like, I don't even know that that's a thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
How'd
I
you do
started
it?
having conversations with people.
Okay.
I started talking to some people that were coaches, like, what's it like? What's your journey? What do you recommend? I started doing some research
Mm,
on potential. I learned that you have to, ideally, you don't have to, but it is advised that you sign up for a program and learn how to coach
okay.
someone, the modality. So I did. And that was the first time it ever, the virtual seminar was a couple $100, and that was my first time investing in something like that. But this coaching program was like, I don't know, I think it was like a couple thousand. That was the first time I'd ever done something like that
Okay.
for
Okay.
myself. And I was like, whoa, that was pretty scary.
Yeah.
Taking an investment like that.
That
And that
is.
was a really big lesson. I mean, definitely talking about massive action for
Yeah.
like a 6 month program. It was a health coaching program, and I'm glad I did. It was awesome. Thought it would pair well with my background.
Right.
And by the end of it, I was just like, I don't really want to help people lose weight. Like I can, but it's not my jam. Right.
Right.
So that's how that started. And then it springboarded into I discovered other modalities of coaching that I could go into if you want me to. But it became this amazing journey.
Yeah.
I was avid reader
Mm,
in college. When I took some time off, I started reading because I was just like, I actually, funny story, I just saw a friend of mine from college. We haven't seen each other in a couple years, and we were chatting, and she said, you know, when you were in college, you had this feeling sometimes, or when you're younger in your 20s, you don't have to be in college to have this feeling. And you're like, I want to do something, but I don't know what to do.
yeah.
Like, I want to progress my life, but I'm not sure what to do. So I chose reading. So I figured getting this and this
Mm,
organized
yeah.
was
Best to
what
align those. Yeah.
progressed me. And so I did. And the book I was reading at the time when I just finished the health coaching program was Deepak Chopra, Revitalize the Body, Resurrect the Soul.
Okay.
And he's a great author. Recommend him. It talked about like subtle awareness, or like if you say the whisper, and listening to that, listening to the voice, the
Mhm.
guiding compass, if you will. And I'd heard this modality called NLP, or neuro linguistic programming. And I just thought, I was like, oh, I'm going to Google it. And I did. And there was a training in person. It was in close to Georgia.
Mhm.
Close to Atlanta, Georgia. And it was 10 minutes from where my buddy lives.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like, hey man, you free this weekend? He's like, yeah. I was like, cool. And I got the time off. It was less than 2 weeks notice. I was like, oh, okay.
Good.
So I went and it was awesome. It was only like a couple $100. And then in the middle of that training, I heard a voice. I believe I heard a voice that said, like, this is one of the modalities that you're going to use to transform people's lives. And I did, and I went all in. So once again, I took massive action, invested heavily into myself, and the majority of those techniques that I use now are what get
Wow.
results by clients a lot. So
Wonderful. All right. So the modality that you lean into is NLP.
yeah, that's the big one. That
Right.
one and positive psychology, which is another
Okay.
one too.
So let's take those two modalities there and your first ever client where somebody paid you rather than you paying somebody else.
Yes, yes,
How did that materialize? And then what was the feeling on the other end, the feeling that Tony Robbins may have when people
yes.
transform? Go on that on the other side. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah. So the first client I actually had was I think it was during, no, yeah, it was during, I just finished the NLP course, the intro course, and I was on my way to take the other one. And I was charging a certain dollar amount.
Mhm.
And I had a call with somebody who I just talked to yesterday. I hadn't spoken to him in 5 years. And he said to me, how much are you charging? I was like, well, I feel want to charge this amount. Or like, I think it was like 750 at the time. I hadn't had a client yet. It was
Right.
like 3 months of coaching, 750, one session a week. And he said, at the time, I was like, do you have a job? I was like, yes. He's like, do you pay our bills? I was like, yes. He's like, double it. I was like, I don't know if I can do that. He's like, just do it. So I was like, okay, I did. And a week later, somebody was just like, I want to hire you. I was like, are you sure? I was like, are you sure?
Do you want to think about that?
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
I was just like, what? And I did.
Did you do it
And
at the 1400 or did you listened?
well, he did 3 payments. So it was like 1650. That was my
Oh,
first
okay.
client
All right.
for
There you
three
go.
months. And that was big for me.
Yeah.
And he got results. It was awesome. It was
Yeah.
my first client, so I wasn't the best, but it was an easy person to coach, thank goodness, because I had a lot of free clients and they're terrible.
Yeah. I have had my share. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So when they don't have skin in the game, they may
Yeah.
not take, they
No.
may see you as a friend, and
Yep.
that's all another conversation.
Absolutely.
But that was really big for me because it really solidified like, oh wow, people want this.
Mm-hmm.
People, this matters to people,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna do everything I can. It was just a different energy. I noticed I showed up differently.
Yeah.
Not that I didn't care before, but like they
Yeah.
were showing up differently. They did their homework,
Hmm.
stuff like that. So that was really good. So I definitely anchored that in.
Good. Awesome. 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 So, all right. So now you got the first client under your belt. The confidence is growing. You go to take step two of the NLP, and you come out even more enhanced. Where are you now with the business?
The business is going in a positive direction.
Hmm.
It's been so many, I love what you say. It has had so many ups and downs,
Hmm.
twists and turns
Hmm.
on my journey. You know, I love how you talk about the first, second, and third man. Because what I've learned in my journey about this is I think what comes to mind is when you're the third level man, there are going to be some moments in your life where you may resort back to the second level
Hmm.
man.
Yep.
And that happened a lot
Yeah.
with me.
Hmm.
And when I was in corporate still, I was still kind of in like, wanted to blame.
Hmm.
It was easy for me to spin out sometimes.
Right.
Thankfully, I learned the techniques and I had some colleagues to support me with that. But like, it was a longer process than what I wanted.
Right.
And I didn't take as much action as I wanted,
Okay.
hindsight. But the other massive action I ended up taking was 2 years ago. I bought a house,
All right. There you go.
and that was pretty big. It was turned it into an Airbnb, and I focused mostly on that the past year and a half, or previous 2025,
Right.
and that was another source of income.
That's Great.
because I was under the impression that like I want to reach financial freedom without, I'm not anywhere close to that, but I want to get there with not just one business per se.
Sure. Right.
So I had multiple endeavors. So to answer your question, it's been a journey of I didn't know how much time and energy this house was going to take, renovating it, getting it ready and all those kind of things. So now it's kind of the first time in my life I'm like, I know how to grow this.
Yeah.
And I had no idea a couple years ago. And
Mm-hmm.
I was just would be, and so it's less, before it was all lack of confidence of like,
Okay.
it just felt like it was kind of random sometimes getting
Right.
clients, mostly from referrals. But now it's like, okay, I know how to do this.
Right.
And now I'm just really getting clear. That's actually my goal right now. I'm going to redo my 5-year goals.
There you
Actually,
go.
probably after this conversation,
There you
honestly,
go.
because it's that time. Because
Yeah.
I looked at my goal list 2020 and I hit them all.
You did. Wonderful.
I did. Had
Congratulations.
a healthy relationship I was in,
Right.
house,
Mm-hmm.
started a business, started a podcast. I'm
Yep.
starting another one here soon.
Yeah.
And um, travel, took a road trip across the country. Just some things I never thought
Yeah.
I'd do. And I did them all
Right.
in 5 years.
Right.
Thought it would take me 10 years, you know?
I love that. I love that. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
shortening your bucket list, but a lot of people die on their deathbed and they haven't even
Yeah.
checked off anything on their
Yeah.
bucket list. So you tackled a few things. Good for you.
Yeah. And so those are the big ones. I could keep going in
Yeah.
the direction, but yeah.
No, it's good. I love this. I love this because you were. I love that you have had a 5-year goal and you looked at it and accomplished it. So, what kind of goals do you think you're going to put together for 2030?
Yeah. Yeah. That's
It's gonna be
on
something to
my
think about,
mind
right? You
is,
sit down and I'm sure your goals are going to be a little more of a stretch now than they were in 2020 because now you've
yeah.
got confidence, you know how to do it, so you can
Yeah.
probably you're going to be able to scale it a lot uh, more effortless than if it was 5 years ago with everything
Yeah.
you've learned.
It's true. I think one of the goals that comes to mind is just getting more confident and, oiling the wheel, if you will, of client
Yeah,
acquisition, but also like just doing more speaking engagements.
yeah,
In-person stages scare me. And I know that's where the
okay.
growth is. Head
But
that
that'll
direction.
be growth. Yeah, you get in front of
Yeah.
do that,
Yeah.
do that. I know you're going to be able to do it. It's just a matter of
Yeah.
taking that on and now the audience knows we need to get Joey on stage, paid on stage in person.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, we need
Yes. Yes.
all have to help him to build his confidence. So
Yeah.
so what other things do you have up your sleeve that you may want to share with us that's coming up?
For future project for me, you say?
Anything, anything.
Yeah. So I am starting a podcast with my one of my mentors
Okay, great.
here soon. We just finalized some details. We're having another call here probably next week or the following week to just start scheduling the batch episodes and start having some guests on it. So that's a good direction. I used to run a podcast before with my previous business coach, and it was a lot of fun.
Good.
I miss doing it.
Well, you're
And
back.
so,
You'll be back.
yeah, so I definitely want to do that. And I like podcasting a lot because it feels more like improv, which is more my
Yes,
style.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Authentic connections.
absolutely,
Um,
absolutely.
stepping with my coach, I'm stepping into doing corporate workshops as well,
Mm.
which again, that scares the crap out of me as well.
Yeah, well,
I've
I'll tell
done,
you, man, you just talked about two goals right there for
yeah,
2030
those
already.
are those are the big ones
I love it. I
for
love it.
sure.
All right, so let's get into those two modalities, the positive psychology and neuro linguistic programming.
Sure, sure.
Can you, in layperson's terms, for the audience who doesn't know, let's start with NLP and then transition to the positive psychology and how you use them together. But start with NLP on its basic fundamentals. What's it at its core?
Yeah, I like how to explain it is I use the expression somebody smart said this, I'm not sure who. Watch your thoughts, they turn into words. Watch your words, they turn into your habits. Watch your habits, they turn into your character. Watch your character, they turn into your destiny. And then I ask, what comes before thoughts? Take a guess. There's a couple right answers.
Before thoughts.
There's a couple right answers.
That's a good question because I think I thought thoughts are before emotions. Uh,
Well, that's right. It's well, depending on what school of thought you talk
well,
about,
yeah, my
feelings
school
or
thought is
emotions.
thoughts trigger emotions, but so what's
Thoughts turn
before?
into emotions, and
Well,
emotions
is it
turn into thoughts.
subconscious? I mean,
Yeah, that's it.
your
Yeah,
subconscious,
basically,
I would think.
essentially, subconscious, pre-thought, whatever.
Yeah,
Thoughts, feelings, emotions, subconscious. It's
yeah,
thoughts turn into emotions, emotions turn into thoughts. So it's
right.
kind of the
Yeah.
dog catching its own tail.
Mm,
But for this conversation,
yeah.
it's like your unconscious or your
Okay.
subconscious thoughts, essentially. So how I describe it to, especially some of my nerdy folks, I use language to reprogram using computer language
Mhm.
your wiring or your programming
Okay.
to then support the, again, domino of thoughts, words, and actions, and thus your goals.
Hmm.
Or I just say I'm a wizard
I
is
like
another.
that with the smoke and mirrors and the
Yeah.
pointy hat. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
you with NLP would is part of it that the words we use will affect how the brain operates. Is that part of it?
Yes, and that's where the positive psychology piece goes hand in
Okay.
hand a lot of ways.
Okay.
And positive psychology isn't about just like, oh, just it's not toxic positivity,
No.
which is like if your house burned down, but like, well, at least you're alive.
It's not that.
Like that's not helpful.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No.
Living in the elements, but thank you.
Yeah. And so your words have meaning. Words are the house of being. And so that's why they, furthering the nerd example, that's why they call it spelling, because words are spells.
Mhm.
And the sticks and stones may break my bones. Words may never hurt me was one of the biggest lies we were ever
Oh
taught
yeah,
as
yeah,
children.
definite lie. Yep.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Because they last longer and they have more scars that are not
Absolutely.
seen
Hmm.
and are felt. So language is important, using it to rewire the brain, but also just be aware of how you talk to others, how you talk to yourself,
Hmm. Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And that goes to that old adage of what was it Henry Ford said, if you think you can, it's true. If you think you can't, it's also true.
Hmm.
So that's, a bit of mindset, but like how powerful that statement is when you know the science, you're like, you will never say negative things again
Right.
in some ways.
Yeah. No, it's true, and that's why it's so important. Like when we're at a young age, 7 to 10, at a very a time in our lives where we are molded very easily. You know, we're very susceptible, and when we're told something, I was just talking to somebody who he said it was think it was his second grade teacher told him he was stupid
Yep.
and had him sit in like the dunce chair.
Yep.
And for a good 26 years of his life, he believed it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so he would then do stuff, the self-fulfilling prophecy. He would then do things
Mhm.
that would cause him to fail because he believed he was stupid. So
Yeah.
there's so much importance in surrounding or making sure that we're surrounded with good people when we're young, and we may not know better. So it behooves our parents or whoever to surround ourselves with positivity because,
Mhm.
like, self-confidence doesn't just happen. Things have to
Yes.
happen in order for you to feel a certain way about yourself.
Hmm.
So, so with that, w- have you encountered a lot of clients who beat themselves up, and do you
Oh,
have a
yes.
methodology to help them get out of that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll share a tool with the
Yeah,
audience here
yeah.
about that. Just to add on to what you said about that kid with the dunce hat example. So one of the other things I do is hypnosis, which NLP is like hypnotic language essentially, and that's a
Right.
whole nother conversation. But all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. It's essentially the same thing as meditation for those who don't know.
Mhm.
And when you're from the age of like 0 to 10, they say that's like the best time to learn a language. It's also the best time to learn your programming
Hmm.
because all your, at least this modality and many other modalities of psychology, therapy, and coaching all kind of align that like that's where most of your trauma happens,
Mhm.
essentially.
Mhm.
So a great example of this is if I were to say, don't think of a purple elephant.
Mhm.
I mean, you obviously think of a purple
I
elephant,
just heard
right?
of. I just thought of a purple elephant. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, it's the brain doesn't understand negatives.
Right.
So it When you say don't think of a purple elephant, your brain is like, purple elephant. Okay, don't think of that. It's a two-step process. And the brain's lazy.
Mm,
And so to make it easier for it, you tell it what to do. Just like children, don't focus on telling them what not to do, tell them what to do.
right.
This is essentially true in work, like with your employees. Tell them what to do, not what not to do,
Hmm.
right? So when people are in, to answer your question, negative spirals of thinking,
Hmm.
you need to do like a pattern interrupt, essentially. One of the ones that really helped me when I was going through a tough time a couple years ago was this one's very simple. You ask yourself three questions, and you can do it with yourself. You can journal about it, whatever's easy. When you're beating yourself up, you're talking trash to yourself, or even about other people or the
Hmm.
situation, you're blaming things. You ask yourself, is this true?
Hmm.
And for my analytical people, is that 100% true? That is a yes or no question. Is this true? Usually no.
Hmm.
The second question you ask, is this kind? Am I being kind to myself? The situation or that person?
Hmm.
It's a yes or no question. Probably not.
Hmm.
The third question is this helpful?
Hmm. Hmm.
Is this helping me, the situation, or that person? Probably not. This is known as the three gates.
Okay.
It was Aristotle once said that never let your words leave your mouth to another person unless they can pass through these three gates.
Hmm.
I never knew to apply it to myself until a
Yeah.
couple years
Yeah.
ago.
Right. Right. I
Right.
love that. Thank you for sharing that. And
Yeah.
those are three wonderful questions we can ask ourselves at the end of each day.
Yes.
Everything I did today, was it true? Was it kind? And was it beneficial
Helpful.
or
Helpful. Yeah.
helpful?
Beneficial,
I love that.
helpful. Either one's a good one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I love that. I love that. And I was thinking about when you mentioned about who said the thoughts, words, actions. I have seen that it was Gandhi, so we can look that
Yeah.
up. But I
Yeah,
believe
sure.
Gandhi yeah. That's it says yeah, it says be positive. Make sure I think your thoughts are positive because your
Mhm.
thoughts become your words
Words.
and words positive.
Yes.
But it's so true. And you know what?
Mhm.
That's in order to think like that, you really have to be in the moment. Thinking in the moment because if you're thinking about the past or worried about the
Mhm.
future, it's very challenging to be
Mhm.
able to focus on your thoughts and
It is.
your words
It is.
because you're not aware, you know?
Yeah. When you're living in the past, um, this is an oversimplification,
Yeah, well,
but one thing I say living in the past is it's a tendency toward depression. Living in the future is a tendency toward anxiety.
exactly, exactly.
And you know when you have baggage and you get to work on something when you say, here we go again,
Yes. Yep.
or
Mhm.
like, you know, it's when's this gonna happen? Like when your mind gets transported to the past or future, that is like
Yep.
it's like trauma, big T, little t, or baggage,
Right.
whatever you want to call it,
Right.
right?
It's true, and when we do think about the past, and we are assuming that the results are going to be the same, we can be in such control of what those results are by not thinking like that.
Yes.
Like I've taken 12 words out of my vocabulary. So like instead of saying I should have done this,
Hmm.
that like should is gone now. But it's like
Yeah.
if this happens again, how can I do it differently? Because
Yes.
that helps you actually be in control of
Hmm.
of your behavior rather than, oh man, I should have done it this way. Like the
Yeah.
should have, could have, would have. Those are the three out of the 12 I've flushed down the toilet, you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
on you.
Yeah. Yep.
They're not
Yeah.
helpful
No.
words in a
No.
lot of ways. There are more constructive ways to view
Yeah.
things. And, as I've said already, language is the house of being. And so how you speak will determine, well, I guess another way to say it is projection, interpretation is projection, essentially.
Hmm. Hmm.
Perception is projection. That's what I was trying to
Yeah.
say.
Perception. Yeah, okay. Okay.
Perception is projection.
Projection. Yeah.
So what you perceive is what you project onto the world.
Mm.
The simple version is if you believe the world is going to hell, it
Yeah.
is.
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you believe it's getting better, it is.
It,
You
it
will
is
see things.
exactly.
Yeah.
No, it's so true. And it's interesting. To take a step further. I've also learned that when you let's say you encounter somebody and there's certain things they do or say that you don't like.
Mm-hmm.
Odds are it's maybe something you've said or done in your past and you didn't like it about yourself. So there's some kind of projection onto
Absolutely.
other people. And when that happens, you get to choose if you let them in your life or not. Because if you
Mhm.
don't like that, either they help them work on themselves so they don't be that way, because hopefully you've changed.
Oh, yes.
But it's just so powerful that sometimes when we judge others, we're more often than not judging ourselves.
Mhm. I'm of the belief that this is certainly true in my business.
Yeah.
My clients are going to bring me the challenges that I'm currently working on, and they have
Mm.
been a lot. And even if you're not a coach or a therapist or that type of work that we do,
Mhm.
um, your new friends, maybe not always your old friends, but actually that is true, your old friends, because if you're still with them and they're terrible, you
Yeah.
haven't learned the lesson
Yeah.
to
It can
spiral
be.
up, essentially, right?
Absolutely.
So your romantic relationships, if you're new and you're looking for new romantic relationships or a new job, it's going to bring you the challenges you're facing are the ones you're ready to overcome.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. That's
Right?
true. The challenge you're facing, you're ready to overcome. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And I firmly believe now, and I didn't used to believe this, that you and I have created the situation we are in right now. Because every
Yes.
step of the way, we had a choice of and a decision to make,
Hmm.
and no one forced us to choose what we chose.
You bought, you paid for the ticket, the ride that you're on.
Yep, yep, it's true. But a lot of people don't want to believe that, though.
No,
Like man number two wouldn't believe that. If they're the
no.
victim, then they
Yeah.
didn't. I'm not here because of that. But it took me a good 5, 6 years to come to that belief, and it didn't happen overnight. It started
Yeah.
slowly working on it, utilizing forgiveness, like forgiving myself
Hmm.
for the past because I used to beat
Hmm.
myself up. But
Yeah.
but I'm forgiving myself. I didn't even have the tools at that time. So I made the best decision I could with the tools I had available, right?
Yes.
And with forgiveness and then gratitude in the present moment for what
Hmm.
if you start, most of us think negatively what I don't have. If you can
Hmm.
start thinking about what you do have, and almost in a step, I was talking to a former, when I had a client, I was talking about gratitude, and he couldn't really think of like 100 things he's grateful for. It was like
Mm.
right away, family, my health, and my dog. But then if you think about, I asked him, what's your favorite beverage? And he's like, coffee. Okay, so you're thankful for coffee, but what steps do you need to take to get that cup of coffee? Let's say you're getting that coffee at home, right? What
Hmm.
steps do you need to take to get that cup of coffee? First thing in the morning, right? Well, you have to wake up. Are you grateful you woke up?
Yeah.
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 You
Yeah.
grateful you're able to move and get out of bed
Yeah.
and walk down the stairs? You grateful to have
Yes.
stairs?
Yes. Yes.
What do you put in your coffee? Half and half? Well, that's in the refrigerator. Grateful for a refrigerator, the
Yeah.
electricity, the handle on the refrigerator.
Yes.
Fact that
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
able to drive to go get the half and half to put it in your fridge. I mean, it's like sounds weird, but you think about it, right there, you could have even just making a cup of coffee, you could have about 40 things you're grateful for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that because a month or two I was doing some yoga and pulled my back for the first time,
Uh-oh.
and I couldn't stand or walk for
Oh,
48 hours.
uh-oh.
And I'm all good now. I
Yeah.
can jump around, but I was
Yeah.
just like, wow, I'm really grateful to be able to stand and walk.
Yeah. Yep. Sometimes it takes that sharp pain for us to realize it, because when we're
Yes.
healthy, we're not realizing all the things we take for granted. So,
That's
um,
true.
yeah.
And that's, leads to a conversation about motivation and getting out of your comfort zone where like a lot of people they let life happen to them, like
Mhm.
we've heard before, and
Yeah.
they'll take action when when there's fires that need to be put
Right.
out, if
Right.
you will. Right.
Absolutely.
Versus proactive in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to,
Mm.
you get to. And so for those of us, for like the level three man, you see the challenges, you go after them versus waiting until they get bigger and then you
Right.
you have to deal with them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
I love that. I
And that
get to do
that
this.
takes discipline.
Yeah. I get to do
Right.
this rather than I have to do this. I love that.
Yes.
Well, audience, you certainly captured the essence of Joey Natale, and you're going to want to get in touch with him. Best way to
Yes.
do so is on LinkedIn. You
Mhm.
can just look up Joey Natale. You'll find him.
Yeah.
It's either
We'll
aren't
drop
that
the link in the show notes or something. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and in the show notes, I'll give you his website and his LinkedIn. But that's a great way to reach out to him. Okay, I am gonna give you two final questions. You up
Sure.
for this? All right. So
Yes.
visualize you're in your happy place, wherever the heck that is,
Yes. Yeah.
and you're sitting down with young 7 to 10-year-old Joey Natale, and
Mhm.
you're gonna give him some advice about life. What are you gonna
Mhm.
tell 7 to 10-year-old Joey, your younger self?
It's okay to trust yourself.
Love it.
You, your instincts, your thoughts, and your feelings and emotions matter.
Love it.
And you don't always have to get approval from others to validate those. And give yourself permission to speak up and
Beautiful.
ask for what you want and what you
Absolutely.
don't want.
All
Yeah.
right. So we've got that. Thank you for sharing that. Now, Joey's a little older,
Mm.
and you're going to put a different hat on. And
Yeah.
now you're sitting with young Joey, the young businessman, young entrepreneur, and you want to give him advice about business. What are you going to tell him?
Mm. You don't have to do it the right way or a certain way.
Okay.
You just have to follow your joy because the abundance and the growth and the experience is going to come.
Wow.
So if you're doing something, if you're enjoying it, sure there'll be challenging times, but as long as you're overall enjoying it versus doing it because you feel like you have to and that's the only way,
Hmm.
then just follow that.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Wow. Pretty deep. And let's hope that what I always love when I ask that question is the hope that the Joey 10 years from now will listen to this Joey's advice. Because
Yes.
unfortunately, we know the young Joey's not going to listen. Because
No,
we
not
were
at all.
stubborn back then, right? Oh my God.
Yes.
Well, Joey, my man, thank you so much for coming into my life, come on the show, and
Sure.
for doing what you're doing. You're an awesome guy, and we could sit and talk forever about different stuff, but we'll continue building the relationship, my friend. But I really appreciate you
Yeah.
being here.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
That's my pleasure. Everybody out there, please take care of yourselves. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe and give us a review to help others find it. I'd like you to answer this question. Are you living the life you want to live, or are you living the life others want you to live? I'd like you to think about that for a second, because I strongly suggest you live the life you want to live. If you want to learn more about what I stand for and my services and how I'm able to help many men get out of their own way, please go to my website at www.profitcompassion.com. Feel free to also email me at drew@profitcompassion.com. I'd love to have a conversation with you. Take care of yourself and choose to write your own story instead of letting others write it for you.